Okay, I'll call the meeting to order, please. And just before we get into the agenda, welcome everyone, and remind anyone in the audience or council members to shut off your electronics. And if you do get an emergency call, would you take it outside, please, in the hallway? Thank you very much. Looking for declaration of conflict of interest amongst council members. None? Thank you very much. Looking for the adoption of the published agenda for Monday, April the 18th. Councillor Caxero and Councillor Snively. Yes, sir.
Your worship, for adoption of published agenda, item 11B under new business has been deferred to the May 2nd council meeting.
11D, defer.
Under new business.
Okay. Councillor Bondi?
Just a reminder under new business of our annual community cleanup, just at the end. I'd like to have a reminder.
Thank you. Councillor Vokes?
I got two things I want to put under new business. One that was removed by administration and in the senior management meeting. I'd like to put it back on the table, and that is in terms of our top coating process and how we're doing it. One more specifically to set a date and fill council in on the concerns of that. And then the second one is June 8th. I want to talk a little bit. We will be hosting a car/motorcycle show under the Spitfire plane Priscilla on June 8th. So I want to inform council under new business what that's going to look like when it rolls out.
Okay, CEO, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Just heard the councillor indicate that it had been removed, an item had been removed through the senior management team. Is that correct?
To my understanding is when we put issues under new business.
I just asked for a simple yes or no. Correct? That's all I'm asking for is a yes or no.
Well, then if you're looking for a simple yes or no, you may want to ask the person who took it out, because I simply can't answer that.
Okay, the answer was yes, sir. That's exactly what he said in his presentation here this evening. Okay, here we go.
The senior management team does not put together the agenda, through you, Your Worship, nor do we take things out of the agenda. We've never had a practice of doing that.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Caxero.
Through your worship, I guess would like to make sure that, and I'm sure each of us may want to do the same, have an opportunity to wish Russ well, seeing as this is his last meeting and tomorrow is his last day with the town. So at the end of the meeting, I'd like an opportunity.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councillor Bjorkman.
And I would just like to add, just to make an announcement about April being Organ Donor Month.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I'm going to refer to the question that Councillor Vokes made here about administration and having something removed, but I'm not going to do it until he puts his iPhone down or telephone, whatever it is.
Go ahead.
Okay, now, Councillor Vokes, I'm not going to allow this top coating issue to be discussed again tonight for the same reason that I had it removed at our meeting Thursday with regards to the agenda. I think it was April the 6th, you had asked the clerk to put a meeting together with regards to this topic right here. It was right after we got an email from a constituent in our municipality about the way we do things. Well, the way we do things as a council has been approved by council. So if we're going to start questioning everything that we do out here, we can do it in the back room, but we're not going to start doing these things out here in the council chambers when our administration doesn't know what's coming up. They don't have the answers. We've discussed this previously, and I think our clerk, after our meeting on Thursday, did call you, and I requested that he get some 3 or 4 dates from you as to when you want to have this meeting with administration and council, all of council, so that we all know what's going on and we'll be prepared at that time to discuss whatever your issues were at that meeting. So we're not going to do it tonight. We are going to do it at another time when we're all available and have some answers, and we know what the questions are. So your June the 8th one, I'm going to allow that, but the top coating will not be on this agenda tonight because of what I had previously said. Councilor vote.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the chance to speak a little further on it, because the truth is, the reason I wanted the meeting is because it's of my beliefs, and I may stand to be corrected, the processes we're using right now in terms of top coating, tentatively, and I say tentatively, could be costing us tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so when something that significant is there, I felt as though it was imperative to raise it under new business so that taxpayers, and the intent of having this building here was for transparency and communication reasons as a result of those cameras and more seating area and you name it. And so I thought tonight, by raising it under new business, we could have some, no pun intended, we could have some surface discussions about it and then set a meeting date. But for whatever reason, nobody wants to do that. I don't know where the harm comes in that. But if this council and this administration doesn't want to be open and transparent and candid, I'm fine with that. In terms of how I was notified by Mr. Auger right after through an email, so Russ, just so you know, through an email, in terms of it come out of a meeting that was held in with administration in the back room with the mayor, and it was taken out. So if you say administration doesn't take it out, I apologize for that. If it's independently up for the mayor to self-righteously took it out, and he took that out, he shouldn't have done that until he had the discussions with me about my direction on that. But either way, it's been taken out. It's not going to be discussed tonight, so I'm just hoping before we leave here, we can set a date for everybody to see the date because of the cost considerations to it, so they can attend.
Thank you, sir. Now, we're going to try to set a date tonight. My schedule doesn't tell me what date you want to have it. Last Thursday, you got the email from our clerk, give us 3 or 4 dates. I don't know why you're waiting. Like, we could have had the meeting maybe later tonight even. But you're not getting this on there because there are no soapbox meetings anymore in this room. It's going to be discussed when we all know what's happening. So that's where we're at. So I'll turn the meeting over to you, sir.
And Your Worship, just further on that, with council's direction, I will certainly schedule a special council meeting for that purpose.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Sorry.
We didn't vote on this, eh?
We have a motion for adoption of a published agenda.
Councilor Caxero and Councilor Snively. Councilor Caxero?
Through your, there was a motion on the floor for the adoption of the, yeah.
Yes, we're adopting
I
this.
just wanted to speak briefly to this date that we're possibly going to pick tonight. Maybe something that everybody can think about till the end of the meeting, and we can discuss it at the end of the meeting, is next Monday, because there's nothing scheduled for next Monday, so.
Okay, thanks. Welcome, young lady.
So we need a vote.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4, adoption of minutes. Adoption of the minutes from the April 4th, 2016 regular council meeting.
Moved by Councilor Caxero, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Under item 6, unfinished business, at the March 22nd regular council meeting, a resolution was passed authorizing the town to issue a request to the community for the names of nominees for consideration for council to nominate one outstanding local senior as the recipient of the 2016 Senior of the Year Award. As a result of that advertisement, 2 nominations were forwarded by way of correspondence for council's consideration.
Any comments? As Clerk O'Shea said, we have 2 names. Now, ministry is only going to allow us to give one name to them. So how are we going to do this? Like, we did discuss this at the Thursday meeting in the morning, and, well, I'll listen to Deputy Mayor Malash first.
Thank you. I believe that both these individuals are, that are worthy of this title. I believe that there's probably even more in the community that could have been listed, but regardless of the number that we have, we only happen to only have two. I think we should make a draw for these names of, and the clerk used to have some kind of program, but I'm not sure if that was Cheryl's or if that's been passed on to Mr. Auger. But we can even put the two names in a hat and pull one of them. But that's how I would suggest we do it.
That's what I suggested Thursday morning, but it's up to us. What do we do? Councilor Bjorkman? Okay.
Motion.
Okay, any questions to that motion? All in favor? Motion carries. So,
I see a big orange hat over there.
yeah. You got two the same size? Okay, now you, I wouldn't say, but go ahead, we trust you. You gonna go use his hat? Sure. Why not? Have one of them beautiful young ladies in behind him pull one out.
The nominated senior for the award is Floyd Cascaden.
Maybe we can refuse to accept any nominations next year except the young ladies. Deputy Mayor Malash.
And I'm sure that this is going to happen already, but I think we should draft a nice letter to both candidates maybe and let them know, and to Mrs. Mooney as well, to let her know that how we felt and how we came to a conclusion on who should be chosen.
Yes, sir. Councilor
Thank you.
Cachero?
Through your worship, I'm not even sure if they know that their names were put forward. So I don't, maybe we might find out first of all if they were told that their names were being put forward. Because I know at least Mrs. Mooney's name was put forward by somebody else, and I don't know if she was privy to that, so.
And I know the retiree center sent Mr. Cascaden's name in for all the number of years he's been involved there, so their executive did that, so they may not know, I bet. Thanks. Mr. Bjorkman?
Just further to that thing, we've got the press here. It'd be great if they would just report on that there were two finalists, and that is actually how we chose it, that not one was better than the other, but they're both very deserving, and it would be a nice recognition for the both of them.
Thank you very much, sir.
Item 7, reports from administration. Item 7A, corporate services, clerk's report on closed council meetings. Your worship, I wish to report on two recent closed meetings. Firstly, on April 4th, 2016, council by motion moved into closed session to consider business as it is permitted to do so under Section 239 of the Municipal Act. In the continuing interest of transparency, I'd like to report in public session any outcomes that can be reported from that closed session business. As a result of the April 4th closed session, I wish to report that the minutes of the March 2nd closed council meeting session were adopted as presented. Direction was given regarding a potential or proposed acquisition of land. An update was provided concerning a potential litigation settlement. Minutes of the March 7th closed personnel committee meeting were adopted as presented, and direction given by council respecting non-union employee negotiations. Discussion and direction was provided regarding the economic development officer position. Discussion and direction was provided regarding the chief administrative officer position. Direction was given with respect to a proposed disposition of land, and discussion ensued regarding Harrow High School and future options surrounding this facility. Secondly, on April 18th, earlier today, Council by motion moved into closed session, once again to consider business as permitted to do so under Section 239 of the Municipal Act. And once again, I'd like to report in public session any outcomes that can be reported from today's closed session business. As a result of today's closed session, I wish to report that a verbal report and update was provided on the status of properties in Essex for recreational use, and direction was provided by council. A verbal report was provided, and finally, a verbal report was provided considering 2 potential or proposed acquisitions of lands. That is the extent of my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. I'd like a mover and a seconder for the report. Deputy Mayor Malas, Councilor Caxero, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Report 7B, Community Services, report number 2016-012, Woodward Boulevard upgrades in Essex Center, Phase 2. Said report for receipt and approval for the contract for Phase 2 to be awarded to the lowest tender of Ferris Contracting, Inc. in the amount of $84,462.71, based on the approved 2016 Community Services capital budget of $58,000, in the amount of $58,000, and for council support for the remaining balance of $26,462.71 to be allocated to the 2017 Community Services capital budget.
Moved by Councilor Bjorkman, supported by, beg pardon? Both? Yep, okay, thank you. And supported by Councilor Caxero. With a question.
Through your worship, if the mover would potentially change the motion a little bit, it says that the remainder that we do not have to be funded through the 2017 capital budget. In speaking to our Director of Corporate Services earlier today, Ms. Hunter, I found out that we have $113,000 left from this year's budget, that amount that was basically allocated for council to do as they wished. And I was wondering if it would be council's wishes to use that money to pay for this, as opposed to waiting for next year. I think it's better than waiting for next year.
Councilor Bjorkman.
No, I would not be in favor of that. The money that's left from the fund that we were looking at is between our partnership funds, our sponsorship funds. Isn't that the funding we're talking about that's left over? Where is that from?
Donna?
Budget.
Your Worship, that is the funds that were allocated to council and the capital budget for them to choose in terms of projects. And you had 200,000, I think, to start, and that was, you did some projects out of that, and then the remainder of that is 113,000.
Councilor Bjorkman.
Okay, then even going to that fund, we had different projects, though that money was set aside should something come up in the different areas that was a certain amount. However, it's that money is set aside for small projects that need to be done in various areas. This money to finish off this project, if we spend that now, each of these little ones we're going to need to fund separately, bring to the council, find ways for funding. So as far as I'm concerned, we should leave it the way it's set. It's going to be in the capital budget, and it allows us, because there was a specific amount of money that we had set aside for projects for council to bring forward. And I'd like to see that fund remain there.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Snively.
Through your worship, Councilor Bjorkman, 100%. We're going to use those funds in future low projects. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to take that money out of what we have right now. That money is going to be used throughout the year. So, I agree 100%. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor? Could I see that again? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Councillor Caxero.
If it could be noted that I was opposed, please.
Report 7C, Community Services, report number 2016-013, Special Events Resource Team April update for receipt.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7D, Fire Department, report number 2016-001, Fire Department shoulder flash and logo for receipt and council's approval of the new shoulder flash.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Mayor McDermott. Any questions? Councillor Vokes.
Yeah, I didn't see in the report, the cost of this is,
Mr. Chief.
Through you, your worship, the cost, this year we needed to buy new shoulder flashes anyway, so the cost of this is just going to be absorbed through our operations budget, and the sewing on of the flashes is at a cost of about $5 per shirt or jacket or whatever it is, and that's included within the budget for the uniform allotment for all the firefighters.
so how much is it, Rick?
The total cost for flashes will be just over $3,000,
So the
which we
project-
had to buy this year.
The project in total, like, does this, when you change a badge, does it include letterhead? Does it
No.
include stationery? Does it include anything of that nature? Is it just the simple shoulder badge you have right there?
Through you, your worship, that's correct, it's just the shoulder flash, that's all we're changing.
And that costs-
Letterhead is the municipal letterhead already, which we use, and everything else will be, in our graphics policy, it shows a Maltese cross with an old steam engine in it, that'll be gone, and that shoulder flash will take over for everything, so we'll be consistent.
Thank you, sir. Anything further? Councillor Caxero.
Through your worship, it's worth noting that in the financial impact in the agenda, it says that a notable feature of the new flash is it's reduced cost, so it's actually cheaper than the old flash.
All in favor of that motion? Motion carries.
Report 7E, Infrastructure and Development, report number Drainage 2016-01, appointment of a drainage engineer to provide a letter of opinion to relocate a farm access bridge on the south rear road drain for receipt and council's concurrence with the recommendations contained therein.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Caxero moves, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7F, Infrastructure and Development, report number Drainage 2016-02, appointment of an engineer for improvements to the main Shepley drain for receipt and council's concurrence with the recommendations contained therein.
Moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Caxero. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7G, Infrastructure and Development, report number Drainage 2016-03, appointment of a drainage engineer to provide a report for a subsequent connection into the Bailey Affleck drain and subsequent disconnection from the Zacchus drain for receipt and council's concurrence with the recommendations contained.
Motion by Councillor Smiley, supported by Councillor Caxero with question.
Through your worship, to Chris, and I'm pretty sure it's clear in here, read somewhere in the background or something. The concern I had was obviously flipping this 30 acres from one to the other without doing any upgrades to the Bailey Affleck drain, is it? I had a conversation with the proponent, and he certainly had some ideas with respect to if flows were too high and whatnot. Had some ideas to maybe reduce the flows temporarily. So in conversation, I guess going forward, when there's on-site meetings or whatever, he may have some ideas if there is issue. There may not be. I'm just suggesting that there could be with 30 acres coming the other direction. I guess we'll go through that process.
Mr. Nepsey?
Yeah, through your worship, the report by assigning the engineer, they'll change the assessment schedule respectively and also review the drains for capacity. So that comes through in assigning the engineer here.
Thank you. Any further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7H, Infrastructure and Development, Report Number Drainage 2016-04, appointment of a drainage engineer to provide a subsequent connection report for the Arquette Drain for receipt and council's concurrence with the recommendations contained therein.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Councillor Bondi. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7I, Infrastructure and Development, Report Number Drainage 2016-05, appointment of an engineer for improvements to the Thompson Drain, report for receipt and council's support of the recommendations contained therein.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Deputy Mayor Melange. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7J, Infrastructure and Development, Report Number Drainage 2016-06, appointment of an engineer for improvements to the Bayless Drain for receipt and council's support of the recommendations contained therein.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Report 7K, Infrastructure and Development, Report Number Drainage 2016-07, appointment of a drainage engineer to provide a report to provide drain bank stabilization for the Richmond banks along the 5th concession for receipt and council's support of the recommendations contained therein.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Councillor Snively. With question, Councillor Caxero and Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, to Chris, is this where there's that jog in the road on the 5th? Is that where this is, where the bank's going in? Approximately there?
Mr. Nepsey.
Through your worship, this will allow us to take a standard solution and apply it to the bank failures that appear to be typical along the 5th concession drain, as opposed to opening it up and going through a drainage report and having everybody assess into it, pay for that, because it's affecting the travel portion of the road. It's something that kind of expedite the process and let us get out there and repair it in a standard fashion.
Thank you. Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, you just answered that same question.
Okay, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Melange.
Thank you, through your worship, to Mr. Nepsey. So there's a lot of these reports that are referring to the $375,000 that's in the budget for these kind of projects. It just sounds like there's a lot of projects going against that 375, but you're keeping tabs, and what do we do, stop when we hit 375?
Mr. Nepsey. Yes, sir.
Through your worship, that's I started adding that in there so that council sees the tracking on it. At this time of the year, nothing's really spent against it. When we come to a point where we're over funds, unfortunately, as you know, municipal drainage works is, potentially petitioned by our residents. It's not, town driven. So that's something that, I guess, not to use a pun, but that we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But that's why I want to put that tracking in there so that council can follow suit with where we're at with that funding.
So the only reason why I'm asking is because I know from previous years that 5th concession has cost us a lot of money. So I'm just concerned because I know it's a very steep ditch and some serious problems there. It very easily could eat up that $375,000. I'm thinking probably on its own when I think about it.
Yes, sir.
Through your worship, we're not looking at doing the entire stretch. We're looking at doing spot repairs along it, so not completely wholesaling, doing the whole drain. So we'll take care of what we can, and we'll definitely mitigate those costs. The 375 is based on an estimate of the works that are going to happen this year, depending on the process. Some happen, some don't. So that's why I foresee there being enough right now for what we have to do on the 5th, but time will tell.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Snively.
Through your worship to Chris, is there any brushing occurring on this drain this year?
Through your worship, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find out and get back to you, Councillor.
There is some areas on that drain that are pretty bad there, and it holds back.
Like any brushing or maintenance that's required, if a resident or someone that's assessed into the drain feels the need for a brushing, they can simply petition the drainage superintendent, and that work will follow suit under maintenance. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7L, Infrastructure and Development, Report Number 2016-05, results of request for tender for the supply of 4 pickup trucks. For receipt and council's concurrence, namely that the request for tender be awarded to Oxford Dodge Chrysler in the amount of $118,209.48.
Okay, moved by Councillor Cacchiaro, supported by Councillor Vokes. Oh, sorry. Supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? Councillor Vokes?
Yeah, when we put bids out, Chris, for vehicles like this, how do we do that? Like, did all the local dealerships, were they aware of this, and did they have opportunity to bid on it?
Okay, Mrs. Hunter?
Through your worship, no, we don't. We advertise all our bids on our website, and we also advertise in MERCs to try and send a bid document to just certain individuals. It's not open and transparent for those individuals that you do not send it to. So by putting it out there as an ad, anybody has the opportunity to access that information.
So,
Councillor Vokes?
so that policy that we follow, that we're bound to follow, I guess, doesn't give us any protection of taking care of our local businesses prior to it going out to...
Mrs. Hunter?
Through you, your worship, as you may recall, Randy, our procurement bylaw does not allow us to give local preference. So unfortunately, the best way of doing it without playing favoritism is to just put it out there on a website and to put it on MERCs. And
Because I say to myself, again, like, is there any opportunity anywhere to change that? Like, you know, we without mentioning anything, there's projects sitting on the horizon that go to people outside of our community when there's good-hearted, good invested people right in our community can do it, and for a competitive price. But it's like, I don't know. I remember it with the arena. I was so heart set that our arena was gonna employ people somehow, and it you know, and it did a little bit. But I don't know, how do we write a policy that takes care of our own before it goes to somebody else? Because one will suggest and one's going to say, well, you can't do that. And I beg to differ. I think if you really look and you really talk about it and you get legal advice, there has to be a way we can take care of our own before $118,000 goes to London. It's so...
Mrs. Hunter? Oh, sorry. Mrs. Hunter?
through you, your worship, it is in our policy, Councillor Vokes, but also there's an act, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the act, but there is an act that does not allow you to give preference or to give disadvantage to somebody based on where their business is located.
Can we find out the Minister Cabinet who controls that act? Because I'd like to talk to him, personally myself. Like, because there's always so much money going out of our community. And if somebody could just give me that minister's name, I know we talked to Wynn about the school and some other people, so one more kick of the can with the minister official about how that understanding's written, so.
I've already asked the clerk if he could get that information for you, sir. Councillor Snively?
Through your worship to Donna, when we put the ad out to replace our trucks, does it go on our website and the local papers, or?
Your worship, we do not advertise in the papers. The only places we typically advertise are on our website and in MERCs.
Okay, just further to that, I know through the experience, being in the car business, I know there's a lot of dealerships that will not give you a price on fleet vehicles. I know that for a fact. So, but I think I agree that it should be, somehow, it should be changed. The locals should have the opportunity, and I don't know if we put it in the papers or not. You know, if we put it in the Star or whatever, at least you're not focusing on one dealership. You're focusing on all the Windsor area, Essex, Harrow, you know, Amherstburg, whatever. But I mean, there should be some kind of change we can make there. But I know there is a lot of dealerships that will not put a bid in on vehicles. I know that for a fact. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hunter?
Through your worship, if I may, we used to advertise in the Windsor Star, but quite honestly, the cost of advertising in the Windsor Star is huge. And so that's when we started to use, excuse me, the website and Perks, because both do not cost us money.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
Report 7M, Infrastructure and Development, Report number 2016-05, results of request for tender, replacement of existing concrete culvert, ID 101-501, and repairs to culvert, ID 100000, for receipt and council's concurrence, namely that the request for tender be awarded to Shayrock Construction in the amounts of $610,940.35.
Moved by Councilor Caxero, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. Question from Councilor Snively.
To Chris, this price here, did you figure it would come in at around this price? Is it under price?
Mr. Nepsey. Through your worship, yes, it's quite a bit under budget. We had worked with the engineer in the winter season to tweak the design of it to help improve prices. So yes, it's under budget for now.
Thank you. Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7N, Infrastructure and Development, Report number 2016-07, results of request for tender, Erie Street North Infrastructure Improvements, Herald Center, for receipt and council's concurrence, namely that the request for tender be awarded to Major Construction in the amount of $1,225,173.90.
Moved by Councilor Bondi, supported by Deputy Mayor Meloche. Councilor Caxero, question?
Through you, nice to see that this is under budget also. Actually, pretty much everything that's been out to tender on our agenda tonight. So, and I don't know if it's attributed to the fact that we went out earlier, but certainly it seems as though that may be the case. So I encourage, conversation is happening now in April. Let's make sure budget happens early again, and that way we can do the same thing next year.
Thank you, sir. All in favor of that motion? Motion carries.
Report 7O, Planning, Report number 2016-11, Removal of Holding Zone, with the recommendation that council approve bylaw number 1505, removing the holding H prefix for the land so described, and for council to support a first and second reading of the said bylaw 1505.
Moved by Councilor Snively and Councilor Caxero, supports with a question.
Through you, Jeff's already got his microphone on. That's excellent. I understand that they're asking for one lot. I've seen this happen before. What assurance do we have that in 5 years they're not going to come back for another lot, and 3 years later another lot? And that's typically I've seen this happen. So I just want to make sure that if there's area there for plan of subdivision, let's make sure they go through the right process so that things get set up properly in that area and we don't end up with drainage issues and road issues and all that kind of stuff.
Mr. Watson, sir.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we took the same position. These are three partners who have acquired about 1,000 feet of frontage on Levergood Drive, as well as some lands on County Road 50 as well. And this is one of the partners who's going to be acquiring this lot for his own purposes. we made it very clear to them, number one, we wanted to make sure that they had the funds available for a plan of subdivision, which they do. We also made it clear with them that this is a one-shot deal, and that they had to come in with a plan of subdivision, to demonstrate that they are going to follow through with that. So that's part of the negotiation process right now. The complication really is that much more is involved in actually developing the subdivision because of the extension of services and that sort of thing. So the deal is that they can extend the services to the 30-foot or 30-meter limit of this lot, and everything has to stop at that point. So the H is only for the one lot.
Councillor Kaczor, continue.
So further that, on the remainder of the land, is there going to be something registered that says that they're not going to be allowed any more lots? Because if there's 3 owners, logic would say, one's getting his lot now, the other 2 are going to want each their lot. So is there something going to be registered that that's not going to be allowed to happen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, the H, of course, is the hold, because it basically, that's what controls them. So council itself can say, no, that's the end of it. The other complication is that there's a significant drain which runs through the property, and you can see it on the map. And so they really can't go past that drain anyway. There's a physical limitation as well as the hold that's on there.
Okay, Councillor Snively?
Through your worship to Jeff, I thought the drainage issue was already taken care of here, because I've talked to Danny Bale directly a few times, and I got back to you on Danny Bale. I thought the drainage issue is taken care of here. And as far as so many lots there, it's on the south side of County Road 50, okay? That's residential area. So I just don't get why they can only build 2 or 3 homes there. That's a residential. If you look, for example, on what Gory's did, or Gory's, they got a subdivision down there. This is zoned properly for a subdivision. And I don't know what the problem is, 2 or 3 homes, as long as the drainage issue is taken care of.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, all the lands basically on the south side of County Road 50 from Colchester all the way out to the Meadows, all the large vacant lands there are zoned into a residential holding zone. And the purpose of the holding zone is basically to pre-zone properties so that everybody knows what's going to happen out there, in this case, single-family homes. And then with the H, it's conditional on the extension of services to meet the needs of those new subdivisions, those new homes. And so you are correct. They can do it a piece at a time. The problem is, of course, is that we are in the situation when you're talking about 1,000 feet of frontage. We have to know that every time the sewer is extended, there's enough capacity to accommodate what's coming, and that's really where it is. And so we know that there's enough capacity for one house, and we basically told them from this point on we want engineering studies basically to deal with the rest of the property, and that would apply to any plan of subdivision out there.
Okay, Councillor Bjorkman and Councillor Kaczor.
Thank you, to your worship. My other concern with it, when I looked at the ask here and for us to pass that and remove the H, it's still subject, though, to an IRCA investigation. I get the drain runs all the way across the back of those properties as well. So has that been addressed yet, or they will still need to go to IRCA before they get their building permit?
When IRCA is involved, the building department requires their approval before that happens. So, and the building department knows when IRCA has to be involved and when they don't. So,
thank you.
Councillor Kaczor.
Through your worship, just point of clarification, I'm certainly not discouraging development going on in Colchester or anywhere west of the village. And yes, that is set up. It's been set up since '89 when the sewers went in. That's what happened. To get their grant, they had to allocate those lands to residential on the south side of 50. What I'm saying is I just want to make sure it happens properly. So to do it a lot at a time sometimes isn't the best way to develop. I'd love to see him to come forth with a plan of subdivision and develop the whole piece of property. I don't want to see him come one lot at a time for the next 10 years and develop 7 or 8 lots and then leave the rest of the land landlocked or whatever, and possibly issues with sewers, issues with drainage. It's nice to see a development like that happen as one, not as individual units.
There's nothing further. All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7P, Planning Report Number 2016-12, Extension of Draft Plan of Subdivision Approval, Hickey Delmore Holdings Limited, Woodview Estates Subdivision, Ward 1, for receipt and that council supports the recommendations contained in this report.
By Councilor Vogel, supported by Councilor Caxero. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7Q, Planning Report Number 2016-13, repeal of site plan agreements for 3118 3rd Concession Road, for receipt and that council supports, and that council supports the recommendations, namely the request and the site plan agreements made on May 16th, 89 and April 14th, 1998, that council receive and support the recommendations contained in that report. Sorry about that, Your Worship.
Moved by Councilor Caxero, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Report 7R, Economic Development, Report Number 2016-04, Town of Essex Business Climate Survey Summary, for receipt.
Moved by Councilor Caxero, Councilor Bjorkman with question.
Thank you, Your Worship. Very good report. I think what the officer said through it, that we didn't get a lot of response, but the responses we got were very good. It was a lot of information. There's a lot there for us to absorb. I think when the next step is to do the visitation program and to have somebody go out to places, that when we do that and we get that data, I'd like to see the data split when we get to the downtowns. Essex Center's data and Harrow Center's data should be separate because they have unique challenges and there's unique issues. So I was reading through and I could tell as I was reading the comments when they were talking about Harrow Center, when they were talking about Essex, but in order to really get a good picture, we need to separate those two when we do that next step. And then reading the report, something we've been talking about is signage. Signage. It's all through this report. Wayfinding signage, helping people get to where they need to go, helping people know where they can park their cars, helping people know how they can access different services. So I think we're already working towards that. We've had a presentation about it, but it just elevates the issue that, we need to work with the county. We've got to find a way to get the county to allow us to start putting these signs out on the road. As people get off the 401 and they can't find us. So it's really highlighted here, so I think we've already started moving on that. We need to make sure that we keep our foot to the pedal with that. Otherwise, I move the recommendation to receipt of the report.
And that was supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. And I have Councilor Caxero and then Deputy Mayor Malash with questions.
Through your worship, I don't have a question, I just want to point out, albeit there weren't many respondents, when asked to rate their overall impression of Essex as a place to do business, 69% indicated it was excellent or good. So we are doing something right. If we've got almost 3/4 of the people saying that things are excellent or good, so certainly there's room for improvement. I think Councillor Bjorkman touched on some of the items. I think tourism was mentioned quite a bit also in the report. So I think the same things keep on coming up over and over again. So that should be a message for all of us that maybe those are the right things to do.
Okay, thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Yes, through you, Your Worship, I agree with what Councillor Bjorkman was saying earlier, too, that I believe that they should be separated by centers as well, because I'm having a hard time picking out which ones are from McGregor as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries. I had a comment, but I'll see.
Item 8, correspondence. 8A, correspondence to be received by council, that the correspondence listed in agenda items 8A, items 1 to 9, be received.
Councillor Snively moves, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Anyone like to discuss any one of the 9? Councillor Bonley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the AMO communications, I did see that we did get an email about the changes to the Election Act, so it's something that we should all be watching because the landscape of our next municipal election could be changing. So, in more ways than one. So I think it's something, I think it would be beneficial for us to have our meeting about our deputy mayor position after AMO comes out with a ruling. I don't know if, depending on, I guess, how long they're going to take, maybe we could find out how long they're going to take, but we need to know what the province is doing with the municipal act, and then we can find out what we're doing. I do think we're still leaning on electing the deputy mayor at large, but there's some key components in this election act as well in terms of shortening the campaign period, which I will welcome. I think will be great, so we don't have almost a year-long campaign period. That's all.
Okay, I just want to clarify that the motion was to receive all of these, and were there any that you wanted to support? Because they were looking for support to some of them. So if there isn't, I'll ask the question. All in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
Agenda item 8B, Windsor-Essex County Health Unit, Notice of Action under Ontario Regulation 19903, West Nile Virus Response. Correspondence seeking council's approval to permit application for West Nile virus control, and that a letter be sent to the Ministry of Environment supporting the local action by the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit and authorizing any permit applications.
Okay, Councillor Snively? Yes, sir. Supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? Councillor Snively?
Through your worship, any idea when this program is going to start? Has there been any indication at all?
Not sure offhand.
Oh, Mr. Nepsey.
Through your worship, typically it starts late spring, early summer, but this year, because of the jump start we had, I had discussions with the health unit today. They may start earlier, but it's a program that we've been doing for, I know, since I've been here 8-9 years at least, where they larvicide the catch basins and the lagoons and whatnot. So this spring.
They didn't give, through your worship, Chris, they didn't give you any date at all when this, because, you take the weather for the last 2 days here. It's been very, very mild.
No, through your worship, they didn't give a set date. I mean, they measure, they call them like the ideal temperature days, and there has to be a certain number, and they've got all the science and everything behind it, so they determine based on that. But I know, like I said in her discussions today, she's still waiting, I think, for a few letters like this, and then they'll start shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Vokes?
Hence another reason why we have to exercise where we had talked a couple of weeks ago about exercising our rights under property standards. Because the property standards in terms, I know Councillor Snively was an issue with you, with a resident out in Harrow. It's been an issue with me, and I'm sure everybody sitting at this bar at one time or another can talk about it, because that's the feeding ground for West Nile to start, in stagnant and lame water. So we got to make sure that our inspectors are diligently watching for properties that aren't, and I know myself, last year, I can recall 2 or 3 different calls I got where people didn't actually open their pools up, midsummer even, and the water laid there, it had turned green, and it was, and I can't remember what our building inspectors had done about that, and if you want to talk about that, Chris, that would be a good opportunity to do it, because there's a lot of people do that, so.
Mr. Nepsey?
Through you, your worship, stagnant water and standing water are 2 different things, I guess, but stagnant water can be addressed through property standards. But through that process, there can be some time taken there, right, the appeal period, and sometimes, a lot of times before we get the call, we're already, like you said, it's midsummer before we'll get the call on a pool that's not open, and then, by the time the process takes place, you're 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the road, maybe more, and you're into September. So, at this time of year when we've got such an early jump on things, to field the calls on stagnant water and pools that aren't open aren't really fair to pool owners, because realistically, they're probably going to wait till, May, June to open their pool. So it's something like any property standards issue. If a resident has an issue, call town hall, get a service order made up, something we can track, something we can follow. The property standards will take a look. The bylaw enforcement officers will address each one. But again, there's a difference between standing water and stagnant water, right? And, you know, if the water's been there a week or 2 weeks, that's not stagnant water, right? When it turns that green and whatnot, then that's where we take an issue. So, but yeah, the easiest, you know, call town hall, create a service request, something we can track, and we'll follow through that way.
Thank you. Oh, that it? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
Your worship, I seem to be having technical difficulties with the presentation part. I don't know if you want to give me a couple minutes to try to resolve that, or just carry on with the hard copy version of the agenda.
I think we can continue, sir, and then if you have any problems, mine seems to be operating.
Thank you, Your worship. So next on the agenda is item 8C, Minister responsible for senior affairs. Correspondence asking council to consider proclaiming the month of June 2016 as Seniors Month for receipt and council's support of that request proclaiming June 2016 as Seniors Month.
Councillor Snively and Councillor Cacero.
Yeah, receipt
Question?
and support.
Councillor Snively. And support, yep, okay. Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 9 off the agenda, committee meeting minutes. Item 9A, Essex Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes from October 27th, 2015 for receipt, adoption, and the recommendations contained therein for approval.
Councillor Cacero. Councillor Vokes with a question, Councillor.
Yes, Your worship. So this would be for 9A, and then you're saying the remaining, sure.
And if you have any questions with either one of the three, we can bring it up, okay? Is that okay with the mover and seconder?
Yep.
Larry?
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's fine.
Okay. Councillor Bondi?
Thank you. I would just like to speak in favor of the Accessibility Committee's recommendations there, that we make a recommendation to the County of Essex to obtain an accessibility coordinator for the County of Essex. So it's a positive thing. We need to look at our county as a whole in terms of accessibility standards, and we're continuing to work on accessibility. We're never going to be perfect. We realize that, but it's really important in marketing our municipality in terms of people that are not only have a disability, but people that are moms with strollers. Having Cara Jane and having a stroller brings a whole new light in terms of accessibility. We know that businesses that are accessible are busier because people that have a disability bring their family there. So it's overall a general positive thing that we should be supporting, and hopefully the rest of the county will. Thank you.
Councillor Cacero?
Through your worship, I believe they might have somebody already at the county level. I spoke to their manager of corporate communications, and it says accessibility also, so I believe there already is somebody at the county level that looks at it, so maybe that's the person to contact.
Councillor Bjorkman?
Thank you. Through your worship, to Chris, obviously you saw the report there about the person that was writing with regard to the wheelchair and getting off the bike path and up onto the sidewalk. Do you have any thoughts regarding that issue there?
Mr. Nepsey?
Through your worship, it's something we can take a look at and see if it's makes sense in that area or maybe another area around there that we can take a look at for sure. Yep.
Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Agenda item number 11, new business, 11A. Councillor Borkman has two items under 11A for new business. The first is recommendation for the town to follow the provincial lead to lower our flags to half-mast on April 28th for the National Day of Mourning.
Thank you. Just in unity with the other levels of government, I'd like to move that we lower the Canadian flag, the provincial flag, and our municipal flags to half-mast on April 28th to honor the National Day of Mourning. It's in recognition of workers who have been killed, injured, or suffered illness as a result of their jobs. In MPP Hatfield's address to the provincial government, he said approximately 1,000 Canadian workers every year are killed on the job. The intent of lowering the flags and this information is to promote workplace safety and to pay respect to all of those workers and to their families. So I think we should follow along with those levels of government and do the same on April 28th.
Seconded by Councillor Caxaro. Any further discussion to the motion? All in favor? Motion carries.
The second item under 11A is a motion to rescind Resolution R15-10-468 that was passed by council on October 5th, 2015.
And at this time, Mr. Clerk, I would say I have a conflict of interest here, and I will vacate the chair and turn it over to our Deputy Mayor Malash.
So we have Councillor Bjorkman making a motion to rescind the resolution, and this motion requires a two-thirds support to be passed, but I believe I need a seconder on the motion first. Moved by, supported by Councillor Caxaro, and I'm going to refer to our clerk, Mr. Auger. Do we need this, just a count of hands?
Sorry.
I take direction from council. It can be a recorded vote, or we can do count of hands.
Councillor Folks?
It's my intent to ask for a recorded vote anyway, so.
Thank you. So it'll be a recorded vote.
Okay, on the motion to rescind Resolution R15-10-468 from October 5th, 2015. Councillor Vokes, how do you vote? I'm sorry, my apology.
Sorry, any questions? Councillor Vokes?
Thank you. Before we move forward with this motion, I'm going to ask that we table it. And the reason I'm asking that we table it because it's asking, obviously, it's rescinding in terms of our position and asking a certain individual to not attend council meetings no more. And I think whenever somebody attends a council meeting, not any individual, but I want to talk about people as a whole and not any separate person. But when people come into our council meetings and they shout, they gesture, they flip people off, they swear at council members leaving the chambers, they cackle like chickens, they're being told by their own family members to be quiet, they're disrespectful to council and their specific family members. I have asked Mrs. Tara McGowan tonight, prior to this meeting, that I'm hoping that council would endorse and support that we do nothing on this particular file, nothing on this particular motion, and I've requested that an integrity commissioner be brought in immediately to view it and let the integrity commissioner give recommendations what our rights and non-rights are. Because what we're going to do here tonight is we're just uneducated.
Councillor Vokes, I have to interrupt you. On
Sure.
a motion to table,
Yes.
there's no discussion. So you're not allowed to speak on the motion?
Actually, I
when
think we,
table?
sorry. Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I think we still need a seconder on that motion to table.
Yeah.
And we need a seconder as well. But you can discuss them? Okay, before anything. So I need a seconder on the motion before we can even have, in any case, before you have discussion. But also, and so that's my fault, Randy, I'm sorry, or Councillor Vokes. Do we have a seconder on tabling the motion? So there's no seconder on tabling the motion. So there's no discussion on the motion.
So the fact that...
Now, you can discuss the motion itself.
Well,
that's being
okay,
passed.
fine. I'll discuss whatever it takes to get a clear message across of the intent.
I'm going to ask that you don't repeat what you've already said,
I
though.
won't.
Okay.
So would we wait for an integrity commissioner to come in? How are we making this decision? On what grounds? Just on feeling? Just on feeling? Oh, I feel like I should? Is that how we do things? Just how I feel? Oh, I feel bad. I think I'm going to rescind it? With no direction? That's how we determine it? It's based on feeling?
Councillor Bjorkman might have an answer for you.
Is that how it's determined, on feeling?
No, sir. It's determined on the only person in this room that has the ability to ask somebody to leave the room is the chair. And the chair has to make that decision at the moment that whatever is happening in the room is happening. So we as a council do not have the right to remove anybody from this chamber.
Who was the acting chair?
The chair has the right to remove somebody from the meeting at the meeting that there is an issue. And the night that we made this motion, there was no issue.
So, if I could.
Councillor Bjorkman, are you finished?
Yep.
Councillor Vokes?
How do you know that? Where's the document? As a councillor, I want to see the document that says that before I make a decision tonight. I think we should all.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vokes. Any further discussion? Councillor Bjorkman?
Just to say that that information was given to me by our administration, and our administration knows the act. That's their job here, and their recommendation is that that's in the act, and we should not be taking that step.
Thank you. Councillor Vokes?
So can I ask the council to have the opportunity to review that act based on their own principles, how they view it, prior to deciding?
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you. I believe, Councillor Vokes, it's in our policies and procedures.
I know that.
I've read it
Oh.
myself. Unfortunately, this is how I see it. Unfortunately, at times, our chair doesn't do what we need him to do. And that's our weakest link, and that's where it is. And so I'm going to support the motion because we've had legal advice and we pay our administration to give us advice, and that's the advice we're giving us. And of course, I'm the one here stuck between a rock and a hard place. Everybody can see that. But I think it's imperative for council to support this motion and move on. And in the future, if any one of us sees anything in the audience that we do not wish to see, we call point of order and we address it. And if our mayor cannot address it, we ask our deputy mayor to address it. And I think that that's what we came up with at our meeting, that council has that authority.
You know that, because once we rescind this, they're going to throw
Thank
it in
you.
our face.
Councillor Snively?
That we were wrong.
Through you, Deputy Mayor,
Yes, we are.
to Councillor
Trust me.
Vokes. The thing, Councillor Vokes, you got to understand that administration did have legal advice to, this was wrong, what we did was illegal. We had no right really to remove her. The chair at the time of the meeting could have removed somebody, okay, an individual out here that somebody was hand gesture or whatever, okay, it's up to the chair to remove them. And we got legal advice, we were in the wrong. So I'm not going to, Councillor Vokes, I'm not going to argue that fact, okay? That's legal advice, I know.
Councillor Vokes, this is your fourth time speaking in the motion.
Yeah, I know that, but it's important because
Okay.
the truth is, we got legal advice. Yes, we did. And you know what the legal advice said? The legal advice come from Mr. Hooker. And you know what the legal advice said? Legal advice said this. Well, I don't do it on any case file because I don't know of any. That's what he said. And then he said, not having any experience on case file, it would be only be my assumption in the interest...
Councillor Vokes, point of order. It's
Okay,
a
well, fine.
closed meeting, and you're not allowed to discuss.
Well, that's okay, but it's not legal advice. It's throw spaghetti at the wall and hope it sticks advice. That's what it was. So, okay, let's just move on with it. I think my position's clear. And I want a recorded vote so I can make sure everybody knows.
Thank you. Can we have the recorded vote then, please, Mr. Auger?
Councillor Vokes?
Absolutely.
Councillor Bjorkman?
Support.
Councillor Caxero?
Support.
Councillor Snively.
Support.
Deputy Mayor Milosh.
Support.
Councillor Bondi.
Support.
On the motion to rescind Resolution R15-10468, Councillor Vokes oppose, Councillor Borkman support, Councillor Caxero support, Councillor Snively support, Deputy Mayor Milosh support, and Councillor Bondi support. With a recorded vote of 5-1, 5 in support of and 1 opposed, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. Ogier. So with that now, we're on to Councillor Caxero, but I'm going to ask Mayor McDermott if he can come back to his seat before we move along.
Roger?
Continuing on under new business, once again, the item 11B was originally Councillor Caxero. That has been deferred to the May 2nd regular council meeting. So next item that was added to new business this evening, I believe, is Councillor Bondi speaking to the community cleanup.
Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I move to the cleanup, I was wondering if we could go back to the correspondence from MPP Lori Scott. There's correspondence we received from a critic, a woman's critic there, from Halliburton Catha Lakes Brock, and it's the Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. I don't see the harm in council supporting that. She's a part of a committee on sexual violence, and they've come up and they want the province to create a multi-ministerial work on this. So I had it saved here, but then I got sidetracked. But anyways, I think that there's really no harm supporting what this MPP has been doing. So I would like to see if council can actually receive and support this, since I think we just received that. We just received it. I'd like to ask council if we can support it, please, before I talk about the garbage
Okay.
cleanup.
Councillor Snively supports that.
Thank you.
Councillor Bondi. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on, as you know, the whole municipality has a garbage cleanup or a community cleanup on April 30th at 9:30, and I just wanted to announce that in Harrow Centre in Ward 4, the volunteer lunch after is going to be at the Legion at 11. So for all of those that come out, and perhaps each councillor could state if they have a lunch planned, where it's at, so the community knows. And we're hoping to get a whole bunch of volunteers out. And of course, the students can get community hours for this day again. So I think we need to keep pushing it out there and get some volunteers out.
Thank you.
Continuing under new business added is Councillor Vokes speaking to the Car Motorcycle Show on June 8th.
Thank you, Mr. Harger. We're going to be holding, actually, I shouldn't say we, I'm going to be working with the Essex Transportation Heritage Museum. Harry Bergman and Mickey Mulder had stepped up and offered their assistance on helping with a car show once a month underneath Priscilla the Spitfire plane in conjunction with the concert music series we have going on. And the first one is going to be held June 8th. So if you're having any discussions out there with anybody, if you could help me out a little bit with that by raising the fact that we're going to have that car show. And it's just not a car show, it's a car/motorcycle, custom motorcycle show. I'm going to be working, and I talked to Steve today about getting with Mary Ann and the BIA. I know they don't have a meeting, I think, set up until the 8th of May. But I'm hoping in between now and then, because of the envelope and the time I got to work with, since the museum has stepped up and with a willingness to help now. And the reason we originally weren't going to do it is because they're having also a car show at Canadian Tire on County Road 8 this summer. So at that time, we felt as though there was too many. But now, the museum and some of the old car guys and along with the motorcycle guys realize the value of having it in our downtown core. So it's going to allow us opportunity again to have one a month throughout the summer. But I want to work with local vendors and get some of our, hopefully, have a couple restaurants and a few stores open on that night. Those who aren't in the mainstream, I'm hoping that they can come down and set their wares up. Just because it's a car show doesn't mean you can't sell a lady's, sundress, if you will. And so I'm hoping there's opportunity to have our vendors there, but I guess the intent, more than anything, raising it tonight is get the attention of the event taking place and get the word out there. I talked today to Doug, and Doug's been extremely helpful, really helpful to this point, in terms of getting some flyers out. So I'll leave it at that, so thanks.
Councillor Caxero?
Through your worship, just clarification, Randy, you said in conjunction with the summer concert series, that's once a week, but then you said it was once a month. Is it once a week or once a month?
Yeah, well, the car show, thanks for the clarification, Bill. The car show will be once a month.
Okay.
The concert series will be every Wednesday night. But because of other car shows in the environment, it would be just too much, so. But the guys are excited about coming downtown and doing it right downtown Essex, so. So, and if I could get that somehow put on our website too, maybe, Doug, please? Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Melange?
Thank you. Through you, your worship, just on Councillor Bondi's talk about the cleanup, community cleanup, there will be a cleanup in the McGregor Center as well. And the lunch will be hosted by the Deputy Mayor and his wife. We're going to be barbecuing. So if anybody wants to join us, we'll be starting out, I forget what time it's supposed to start.
9:30, 11:30.
9:30 till 11:30. We'll have refreshments and some foods, so come on out, help us clean up, make our community better. And we'll have our Amherstburg partners there as well that day. So in McGregor, we have a joint partnership on this one, and I think it should be a lot of fun.
Thank you. Councillor Caxero?
Through your worship, on that note of the cleanup, I haven't contacted yet the new owners of Eats and Treats, but my intention is to do that and get them to partner with Frosties again as we did last year. If that falls through, I'll make sure it's covered. Whether it's myself or my family, we'll take care of that. We didn't get a big turnout last year. Hopefully it's better this year. Hopefully the weather's good. And I just wanted to ask Randy, is it okay if I bring my mountain bike to the car and bike show? No, I can't bring mountain bike.
We don't care as long as it's got two wheels.
Councillor Bjorkman?
Thank you to your worship, and also for Essex Center, 9:30 at the train station is where we'll be meeting to 11:30, and once again, the BIA is teaming up with the Legion, and they'll be taking care of a luncheon for the people that show up to do the cleanup.
Thank you.
Continuing under new business, Councillor Bjorkman, I believe you want to speak on Organ Donor Month.
Stevie?
Yes, thank you again. Through your worship, April is Organ Donor Awareness Month. Actually, Councillor Vokes a couple of years ago brought forward that we make April 27th as Caden Blair Organ Donation Awareness Day in Essex. I believe we have a Be a Donor flag that we've raised for that before. That young man has done a lot to raise awareness in the town of Essex and his family. They've increased I don't have the data in front of me. I tried to get in touch with them, but it's just really increased the awareness in the town of Essex and the amount of people that are registered as donors. What they say is, like, be a donor. Go to that site. It's called, I got it here somewhere. There's way too many things. beadonor.ca, and everybody can save 8 lives. So it's something that we should do. We should be aware of doing. And like I say, young Caden is a liver transplant survivor. He wouldn't be here. And he's been here 13 years and doing a lot for our community and to raise awareness for this. So it's just something we'd like to see posted on our social media and on our webpage to get that word out there and get people to register and be donors. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And further to that, I was contacted by Caden's mom, and like you said, this is 13th year. He plans on picking up 13 new donors that day, and we are going to raise his flag on the 27th at 9 o'clock, I believe it was, Doug. And if any of you can be there, I can't, because Bill and I will be at a police zone 6 meeting that day, so they know I'm not going to be there, so they'd appreciate any of us that can make it. Okay, thanks. 27th of April, 9 o'clock in the morning. Can help with the raising of the flag. Thanks.
Councillor Caxero, I believe you and possibly others wanted to speak to our departing CAO.
Through you, your worship. Certainly, it came as a shock when, to me anyway, I remember very distinctly, I was driving back from Florida. And it is, I think, unfortunate, but hopefully we'll be successful in finding a good candidate to replace Russ. I think he's done a lot of good work. Kind of reflecting in the time that I've spent with him, and even prior to coming on council, just to try to describe Russ, to me anyway, because understanding that Russ is not from Ontario or even from Essex, but certainly I think if you asked a lot of people that didn't know him and bumped into him and knew what he did for a living, I would suggest that they would probably think that he was born and raised in Essex. 3 words that I came up with that I think very well describe Russ, and I kind of in the order that I would say that I came up with these. So when I first met him, sitting on the Police Services Board, and I met him at a meeting, certainly professional. I mean, and he is that. Next, I think when I started on council, very much so, I believe he's a good leader. Not only for us, but also for the rest of the administration. And I think as I've gotten to know him better, another word that describes Russ is he's a gentleman. That day, when I was driving home from Florida, and I saw the email, certainly it was a horrible feeling. And I knew I had felt that before, and I didn't quite remember at that point in time when I felt that. But it was very reminiscent of when I got the phone call that my father passed away. So, wish you well. We'll miss you. And if you ever want to come back to Ontario, you're more than welcome.
Anyone else? Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Much the same. I came on to council here. I sat out in the audience for about 6 months before and tried to watch how things were going, but I had no idea once I finally got here what I was in for. But I would like to say thank you, Russ. So much of what I learned quickly that I needed to really move along, you helped impart to me. I agree with the idea of the leadership that you've given to us and to this administration. I think it's been great for myself, the mentoring, your knowledge of the Act, your knowledge of things that, when I did things that I couldn't do, and learned twice, as a matter of fact, one time that I couldn't do that, so I had to get it right the third time. But it's just been great. It's been a great relationship. I appreciate the time, just how active you and Joyce both have been with the United Church. Being the chair there, being involved heavily with the things that go on there. And the other one is the hours and hours you spent on our high school in Harrow. Not enough can be said, the effort that was put out by the parents committee and everybody that was there, but the hours that you put in for that to try to help those families out there, not enough can be said about that. So thank you very much for giving yourselves, both you and Joyce, to the community of Essex. We've enjoyed it, and we'll miss you when you leave. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Meloche.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, thank you for this opportunity. I too, when one of the words that Councillor Caxero used was professional, and I know that really shone through in his when we were interviewing. very professional. Over time now, we've learned that he's a very caring person, very community-minded, likes to get involved, and no doubt a very quick start. This is a big community with lots going on, and I can tell you he delved right into all of the issues that we have immediately and didn't miss a step. It's very few people that can do something like that, and I want to say that I thank you for doing that, Russ, because we had a tall order trying to replace somebody who had been here for 20-some years, and after you had been here for 6 months, it felt like you had been here for much longer than 6 months, by the way that you just took control and did what you needed to do. So it says a lot, and I feel the same way. If there's a time where you'd want to come back, I wouldn't think twice about having you come back with the town of Essex in some capacity.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Snively?
Yes, to Russ, all the best, Russ. I know Russ and I, we sat down and had a couple discussions there, and there were, a couple of them were pretty heated, eh, Russ? But I mean, we've always picked up the phone and called, and we got our differences aside. And I think we all get hot-headed once in a while, but, I think we put that behind us, and I wish you all the best, Russ.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, you'll hear from me at the end.
Number 13 on the agenda, bylaws. Bylaw for third and final reading. Bylaw number 1502 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement between the Corporation of Town of Essex and its non-union employees.
Moved by Councillor Caxero, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Bylaw number 1503 to confirm the proceedings of the April 4th regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Brownie, supported by Councillor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 13B, bylaw for first, second, and third reading, being bylaw 1504 to authorize the execution of an amending agreement between Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services and the Town of Essex for the provision of OPP police services. This repeals bylaw number 1469 and clarifies the term of the agreement.
Councillor Caxero moves, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
And bylaw 13C for first and second reading to confirm the proceedings of this April 18th regular council meeting.
Councillor Snively, Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Now, just before we have the adjournment, I got a little presentation to make to our outgoing CAO. A couple of people asked them today, is tonight your last time? Nope, he's still here tomorrow, so if you got a complaint, lodge it before he leaves. That's all I can tell you, because he won't be here after tomorrow to be able to do anything for you. I was told to bend down, use your knees, because we don't want you injuring your back here. It's pretty heavy. You're right. Before you take this picture, I think we all need to be up here when you take your picture. But yeah, my few words. I've lived in Essex all my life. Wayne Miller's been here 30-some years involved in council and everything else. And, when he was leaving, I said, wow, a lot of knowledge there, to lose. I know he was going to be here to kind of steer our new guy. Sure as hell didn't need any steering, I'll tell you. Been a lot of good things said about him. The one that we haven't said yet, and everything that Bill and everyone else said is true. You really didn't know this man unless you were in the office, like Chris, Donna, Doug, Robin. If you're there every day and see this man, talk to him, you really got to know what a great man he is. And just left one word out. You weren't ever going to find anybody that was more, it's not. The word is trustworthy than this guy. Believe me. I don't lie. I know this guy doesn't lie, and I've only known him for just over 3 years. But what a great human being. Like Bill says, he's a gentleman. He's everything that you would want your son to grow up to emanate, you know. Russ, it's been a great 3 years for me, I'll tell you that. And on behalf of all of us, should I say that where it came from? Guess what it is?
I have no idea.
Guess where it came from?
It's a brick.
Don't tell them?
It's another brick.
Okay.
Is it another brick from the memorial?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Twin Pad Arena.
This is from the silo, right?
Okay, so
Can I have a moment?
we'll have a, yes, you can. But before we have a picture, we'll have adjournment and then have a big picture. How's that? Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Russ, it's all yours.
Thank you. Just a brief moment to thank, I know we had an opportunity the other day to chat with staff and that, but it's been a true privilege serving the community, serving this council and previous council, and to work with such a fine and dedicated and capable staff. It was a pleasure working alongside of all of you, and we take with us many fond memories of Essex. Appreciate all the comments tonight, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been a great run, and we'll be down the road. Hopefully, we'll see some of you guys at FCM in a couple of weeks or a month or so. But thank you again.
Now I'm looking for an adjournment. Deputy Mayor Malash, supported by Councillor Caxero. Questions? All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Have a great evening. Now we'll have a big picture. You got a guess?